All right, good afternoon, everybody. I believe there are still a few more people waiting to get in to the Zoom, but we will get started with just some introductions. My name is Michael Stadelmeyer. I am a staffer in district for Congresswoman Tenney. I am joined here with my colleague, Dan Martini, George McNerney, and Jason Phelps in both our Lockport, Victor, and Oswego offices. We will be presenting today for our monthly webinar series on the State Department passport process, what we can be doing to help constituents such as yourself, what issues we're seeing from the agency, and how the process would be to get some help from our office. So with that, I am going to also say, if you do have any questions, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function at the bottom of this Zoom. But if you have any follow-up questions, or if you need immediate help with passports, with any issues, please feel free to contact one of our district offices so that one of our expert caseworkers can assist you. With that being said, I will hand it over to Dan Martini, who will start our presentation. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Michael. So we'll get started here. So the passport process is it's a bit of a fun one. It's not too bad. We're going to go over a few things throughout the course of this, predominantly what we can do to help, what the issues are facing the agency, what we need in order to help people, and as well as a few of the more common situations people have run into, just so you're aware of it going into it. So to get started here, some basic information on it. The three primary ways in which to get a passport are going to be your standard processing time, your expedited processing, and an in-person meeting. So your standard processing, you're looking at about 10 to 13 weeks from when they receive it, not when you submit it, but from when they receive it to when you get your passport by mail. Expedited, 7 to 9 weeks. Again, same thing from when they receive it to when you receive the passport. These are tending to be on the higher end, so we're really looking 13 and 9 weeks. Or the in-person meeting. Now, in-person meetings aren't a primary way to get them. They are mainly for emergency situations or for last second travel, last second issues that pop up, things like that. We cannot schedule one of these appointments until 14 days prior to your date of travel, or 28 days prior if you need a visa for travel. So some countries require a travel visa, and those countries need you to get them your passport information X amount of days before travel date. So for those, that day when you would need to get your passport to them, that's usually when we can work with. These appointments will usually be within 3 days of travel or need. They want to schedule as close as possible because they have a lot of people coming in for them. As a result of this, you have two options. You can either get that overnight shipped to you, the passport that is, or you can stay. They do appointments in the morning and early afternoon, and they print them out in the afternoon. Some offices, I know Buffalo is all right with it most of the time, are able to, if you stay around the area, you can come back in the afternoon and pick it up, depending on when you got it. If you just let them know during the meeting, they'll let you know from there. Main places to submit that paperwork. So you're looking at post offices will have them. There is a limited release online program. Sometimes you can get into. You can also find the form itself on travel.state.gov. Your locations where you can get your passport information paperwork is also at travel.state.gov. You can print it out, fill it out, send it in by mail, or you can go to your clerk's office. They usually have this information as well. Again, that's travel.state.gov. They're also going to be your best resource for pretty much anything passport related. Some of the main reasons we're seeing this delay. So those 13 or 9 weeks are considerably higher than they were even just 12 months ago. Big reason for that is this year, on a normal year, you're looking at about 20 million passports issued. That's a normal non-COVID year. So these are post-COVID numbers. They're back at pre-COVID staffing. So there aren't really staffing issues. The issue now is that because of COVID, people weren't getting passports. Now all those people want to travel again, so they're getting passports. So this year they're on track to print or to issue roughly 24 million, if not probably more than 24 million passports. We're on the tail end of the second point here, but it's still worth mentioning. There was a glitch in the passports and their system back in February for about a week. It was down. That caused some issues. We're mostly past that now. Still getting a few stragglers from it, but we're mostly past that. But that is why we have a bit of a backlog right now, or we're seeing a bit of a backlog. This is a busier time of year for passports. People are getting ready for spring break. Well, they're getting ready after spring break. They're getting ready for summer vacation. It'll probably come to a bit of a lull during the summer. It'll slow down a touch. We might see those numbers go down a little bit, but it's going to pick back up again in the fall, coming close to holiday season there toward the end of the fall. So that's another reason. And lastly, but one of the least seen, least common issues is due to lost paperwork. We don't see that much. It does happen on occasion. Did not mean to press that. Sorry. It does happen on occasion, and in those situations, we can help as well. But it is something to keep an eye on. What can go wrong? So these are just some of the more prominent issues that we've seen regarding passports, and some of the big ones that can kind of jump out and get you if you're not paying attention, or if you're not aware of them. So if your passport can be denied or put on hold, denied for any number of reasons, but put on hold is a main one that we see with these. That could be due to money owed to the State Department. If you have had to get a emergency visa or emergency passport, or emergency travel home, anything like that, if that money is not paid back, those are loans. If you need money for those, it's a loan from the state, state. If that's not paid back, they'll put a hold on your ability to get a passport. If you owe back child support, that's one of the more common ones we see for this. They will put a hold on you getting a passport. They don't want you running. Or incorrect documentation. Let's say the paperwork you filed wasn't exactly right. You didn't send in a birth certificate, something along those lines, right? The money you sent in wasn't enough. Any number of issues with that process. That can put a hold on your situation. Most of the time they'll let you know. Sometimes they don't. You can check the status again at travel.state.gov. That's always available for you to check status there for the passports and for anyone you speak with regarding it. If you are unexpectedly not allowed in, that can either be at a border or at the terminal in which you're boarding a plane to go to whichever country. They'll usually stop you at the terminal there. Some of the biggest ones are to keep in mind are a lot of countries require you to have a certain amount of validity left on your passport. If you're within 6 months of your passport expiring, it's probably not great to travel on to most countries, especially overseas. A lot of Europe especially requires 6 months of validity. So it's always good to keep an eye on that. They can deny you at the border or at the terminal if you don't have that, if you have less than that. The information for that can be, again, found at these on travel.state.gov. They have information for that regarding specific countries. If you look up the country page, you need to ensure that you have enough empty stamp pages at the back of your passport. Those pages, they stamp the stuff in them. Some countries require you to have a certain amount. I've seen up to 3 required. So make sure you have enough. If you don't, you're going to need a new passport. The last one touches on something we'll get a little bit more into, but that is emergency passports. So if you lose your passport in a foreign country, or something happens, and say you're there for whatever reason, your passport expires, the embassy there can issue an emergency passport. Not all countries accept emergency passports as valid means of travel. They're mainly meant for you to get from wherever you were back to the US. So that is something to keep in mind. Lastly, for the more common things we see are the differences in passport validity durations. So a normal passport is valid for 10 years. For children's passport, that is 0 to 6, infant to 16. Once you turn 16, you're able to get a normal passport. Up until then, you get the children's passports. Those are only valid for 5 years, and those require parental consent and a whole lot of other things going into them. And then lastly, emergency passports, which are valid for a year at most. I say at most because some of them will be valid for up to a year. Some of them are only valid for the duration of your travel back to the US. So those are things to keep in mind, things to look at. If you are planning a trip, make sure you don't owe any money you have to the government, and make sure that you have at least 6 to 7 months of validity left in your passport by the date of your travel date. So how can we help? Well, we can help by scheduling in-person appointments with the different passport offices. Most of the time we use Buffalo because that's the closest to our district, but we can coordinate with any passport office throughout the nation. We can help with locating lost documentation. Like I said before, sometimes things get lost. We can contact either the National Passport Center or branch offices, anything like that, and go through them, try to figure out what's going on. If you get expedited and it still takes 11 weeks for you to get your passport, that's out of processing time. They do offer refunds for that situation, and that is something we can help with. We can help get you that refund. We can help work with them, make sure you get that money, make sure everything's still working well there. We can get you those last second appointments, right? So if you're traveling in 3 days and you need a passport, whatever happens, we can work with passport. Now, we can't guarantee outcomes on any of these, but we can work with the agencies to get you those last second appointments. Even if you call and they say there are no open slots, sometimes we can get you an open slot. We can get more information on kind of where in processing your passport is, or if something's wrong, if it's just been sitting there for a while, you're not sure, you're concerned, want us to look into it, definitely something we can do. And we can work with the state and treasury departments for debt related issues. Again, back to the last slide there. If you owe money, it goes into collections, they put a hold on it. We can help work with state and treasury to facilitate your paying back whatever that was, and make sure that state lifts that hold. Well, the things we need to help are your privacy releases. So if if we do need to look into something, we need a privacy release form, just as with any other case. That's for anybody 16 and over for this. Most time with privacy forms, it's 18 plus. With passports, it's 16 plus, because again, passport considers you an adult at 16 is when you start getting the adult, when you file everything for yourself. We're going to need, if they are under 16, then we're going to need information of the minor's passport and all of the minor's info on their parents' privacy release form. The parents will both need to be at the meeting for one of these. If we're scheduling something in person for a minor, both parents will need to be there. If both cannot be there, whoever can't attend needs to have a notarized letter of consent that the child can get a passport. They're very careful about this. They want to prevent a lot of issues that can rise from not having that. So you need to have one of those available and sent in, or available with you for the in-person. We're going to need your verification number if you have it. So that's, again, if you've already applied. We're going to need that. If you haven't applied yet, you're not going to have one, but we can work through that process. If you have applied, we're going to need that number. It helps speed everything along and helps ID your case. We need your date of travel or and the date of request. So the date you're looking to travel and the date that you requested your passport, that you sent everything in. Those are most helpful. We're also going to need whatever date the cutoff period for you getting that visa is, if you need a visa. This is important information for us and for passport, so that we can make sure you get in during, when you're able to. We're going to need to know if you need a visa, right, on that second one, that next one there. We'll need to know if you need one. So again, we can work around it. and the amount of people who need passports, the ages, all of that information. So if it's 2 parents and their 4 kids all need passports, we're going to need info for each one of those 6 people, right? So next up, additional information. We're getting towards the end here. So I'll start wrapping things up a bit, but just general information for, and some of this I've already covered, right? So we can schedule at any passport office. The appointments tend to be in the morning. They're printed in the afternoon. You can get out in the afternoon. California passport centers have been a bit slower in response. Most of the time we hear back within 24 hours. You can see on the bottom there, but the Cali centers have been taking a bit longer just because they have a huge amount of passports they process normally. So sometimes they can be a bit longer. As we said, embassies can get issued temp passports if needed. It's a completely separate process that is handled more or less at a local level between us and whoever it is overseas. If they need it, again, contact us. They'll have them reach out and we can walk them through the steps and help them through that. But mostly it just requires contacting the embassy and providing them the requisite documentation. That's all I have. If you have concerns, if anybody around you, anyone you know has concerns, please reach out to any of our offices. The numbers there on the left, and those of us who handle a lot of casework, our emails are on the right as well there. You can also reach out to us through our website. And one last thing I did forget to mention beforehand, if you are looking to travel and you have something planned, try to put in for your passport about 5 to 6 months ahead of travel date, at least, just to give yourself some buffer time. The last thing you want to do is lose out on a vacation or on a trip or on whatever it is for something as simple as processing time. So, but yeah, that's all I have. I'll turn this back over to Michael so he can do whatever he needs for that side.
Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate it. And just echoing Dan, if you do have questions, concerns, please reach out to one of our Lockport, Oswego, or Victor offices, please. If you have immediate travel or concerns about your passport, or you've been waiting for an extended amount of time for your passport, please feel free to reach out to us. If you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function. I'll just give it one more second just to see if there's any questions that come in. Again, this has been recorded so that it can go up on the Congresswoman's official website so that anybody that wants to see this later can do so. Again, feel free to reach out to us anytime with questions regarding this. And I don't believe I see any questions come through, which is perfectly fine. Again, there's a 585-315 and 716 number for our Victor, Oswego, and Lockport offices. Please feel free to reach out to us. With that, I thank Dan, Jason, George for all being part of this. And the Congresswoman thanks you for participating in this webinar series for this month. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.